I never thought revenge would taste like the copper tang of blood in someone else's mouth. But there I was, spitting it out in the marble-tiled bathroom of the Peninsula Hotel, my knuckles raw from the punch I'd thrown at my own reflection. 10 years married to the man who built empires on lies. And, on our anniversary night, I walked into that ballroom not as Ellie Harper, the devoted wife he'd buried alive in a lab 2 states away, but as my twin sister Lena, the disposable secret he'd beaten down for sport. He raised a glass to his sisters, me and the ghost of her he'd created, and that's when I decided, tonight, his world ends with a smile on my stolen face. The swap happened 6 months ago, in a sterile white room at Northwestern's experimental neurology wing, where cutting-edge science met the kind of desperation that makes you sign away your soul. I'd come for answers about the headaches that had plagued me since the accident, the one where I took the fall for Mark's drunk driving hit-and-run, the one that killed our unborn niece and left me with a manslaughter charge hanging like a noose. But Mark, my husband of nearly a decade, had other plans. He wasn't just the golden boy of Chicago finance, the guy who turned a startup into a billion-dollar hedge fund by age 35. He was a puppet master, pulling strings in shadows I never saw. Turns out, the accident wasn't random. He'd orchestrated it to cover his tracks, embezzling from clients, laundering through offshore shells, and using me as the patsy, because who suspects the perfect suburban mom? Lena, my identical twin, had always been the wild one, the black sheep who fled our conservative Evanston upbringing for the dive bars of Wicker Park, chasing highs that numbed the abuse from our stepfather, the same stepfather Mark had charmed into leaving her his crumbling real estate scraps. She'd reached out to me that spring, voice cracking over a burner phone. "Ellie, he's coming for me. Mark knows about the tapes." The tapes. Grainy security footage from a yacht party off Lake Michigan, where Mark had cornered her. His hands too rough, his words laced with threats. She'd recorded it, thinking it was leverage for the child support he owed from their one-night fling years back, a fling he denied until she showed up pregnant, only for him to pay her off and vanish. I drove to her that night, through sheets of rain that turned the Kennedy Expressway into a river of taillights. She was holed up in a roach motel on the south side, bruises blooming like ugly flowers under her sleeves. He's powerful.
Él.
Connected. If he finds out I kept the kid, our niece, Mia, 3 years old, hidden with a distant aunt in Milwaukee. Lena handed me a USB drive, trembling. "Promise you'll protect her." That's when the migraines hit, blinding white hot, and everything went dark. I woke up strapped to a gurney, Mark's face hovering above me like a benevolent god. "Ellie, baby, you had a seizure. We're fixing you."
Lies.
It was his pet project, the body swap trial, clandestine neural mapping funded by his slush fund, a way to transfer consciousness for the ultra-rich dodging mortality. But he'd twisted it. Injected us both with the serum during what he called emergency stabilization, swapping our essences while our bodies lay comatose. Lena's shell for me, mine for her. He thought he'd solved his problem. Bury Ellie in a psych ward as a delusional wreck. Blame the seizure on my instability and keep Lena as his plaything. Silenced forever. But the swap wasn't clean. I woke in her body, memories fracturing like shattered glass, flashes of her life bleeding into mine, the sting of his slaps, the terror of hiding Mia, the nights she'd plotted escape only to chicken out. And Lena? She surfaced in my body, disoriented,
but with my steel spine.
Mark underestimated twins. We synced through stolen moments, notes passed via nurses, a covert phone line she'd rigged. "Fight back," she whispered through gritted teeth in a voice that was mine. "Make him pay for us both." The first weeks were hell. Adjusting to Lena's wiry frame, the tattoos snaking up her ribs like accusations, the way her fingers itched for a cigarette every 5 minutes. I holed up in her shoebox apartment, chain-smoking Camels and poring over the USB. The tapes were gold. Mark, slurring scotch, pinning her against the yacht railing, snarling, "You think you can bleed me dry? I'll bury you and that brat." Then the crash footage, him behind the wheel, me in the passenger seat as the fall guy. Our car swerving into the guardrail because he'd dosed my drink to make it look like my fault. Betrayal hit like a gut punch. We'd met at Northwestern, me the poli-sci major dreaming of nonprofit work. Him the econ whiz with eyes like polished obsidian. He swept me off my feet with rooftop dates overlooking the loop, promises of a life beyond my fractured family. But it was all a con. The embezzlement started small, skimming from my nonprofit's donor funds to seed his fund. When I confronted him after Mia's conception rumor surfaced, he gaslit me. "Your sister's a liar.
Él.
She's always been jealous." And I believed him, because love is blind, and denial is its faithful dog.
Now.
In Lena's skin, I plotted. Controversial decisions came fast. First, I seduced one of Mark's lieutenants, a sleazy VP named Derek, in a booth at the Violet Hour, whispering pillow talk about offshore accounts while slipping a tracker into his wallet. It felt like acid in my veins, betraying my own moral code, but revenge isn't pretty. It's a mirror showing the monster you become. Derek spilled enough to map Mark's web, shell companies in the Caymans, bribes to city councilmen, even a mole in the FBI's white-collar unit. Second twist. I reached out to our stepfather, the monster who'd beaten Lena into submission, offering him a cut of Mark's empire if he'd testify to the abuse. Twisted irony. Using one devil to fell another. He bit. The greed in his watery eyes a perfect match for Mark's. But the real gamble was Mia. I drove to Milwaukee under cover of night, scooping her up from the aunt's sagging porch. "Auntie Lena," she murmured, clutching her stuffed unicorn. Holding her, feeling Lena's echoes in my chest. I knew this wasn't just for me. It was for the child we'd both failed. Mark's power plays escalated. He had goons tailing Lena, anonymous texts lighting up my burner, "Stay quiet, or the kid disappears." I countered with leaks, anonymous drops to the Sun-Times about his yacht indiscretions, blurring faces just enough to spark rumors without tipping my hand. The city buzzed. Hedge fund king in sex scandal? His boardroom charm cracked. I watched from afar, sipping black coffee in a diner across from his Gold Coast penthouse, as his Botox smile faltered in paparazzi shots. Our anniversary loomed like a guillotine. The peninsula's grand ballroom, booked for an intimate soiree of 200 investors, politicos, the elite scum who'd toasted his rise. Lena, in my body, was to play the grieving wife, dosed lightly to seem ethereal. Her condition, a convenient excuse for my absence. But I crashed it as Lena, the troubled sister, black eye courtesy of a self-inflicted makeup job, concealer and physics to mimic a fresh bruise. Controversial as hell because it screamed victimhood. But victims don't win wars. I arrived fashionably late. The doorman's not a small victory. The room dripped opulence, jazz quartet crooning Ellington, waiters in crisp whites ferrying caviar blinis. Mark held court at the head table, Armani suit hugging his gym-sculpted frame, laughing with a cluster of silver-haired donors. Lena, my body, sat beside him, porcelain in a Vera Wang gown, her eyes flicking to mine with a coded blink. Ready? He spotted me first, that predatory gleam. Lena, join us. Darling. The word dripped condescension. I sauntered over, heels clicking like countdowns, sliding into a seat across from them. Happy anniversary.
Mark.
To 10 years of everything. My voice, her husky timbre, laced with venom he mistook for flirtation. He leaned in, breath scotch-sweet. Where have you been hiding? And what's with the shiner? Rough night. Chuckles rippled from the table, his cronies sensing blood. I touched the bruise, wincing theatrically.
Oh.
This, you're doing. Indirectly. Remember that yacht bash? The one where you got a little handsy, gasps. But he laughed it off, raising his flute. Ladies and gentlemen, to my sisters Ellie, the Rock, and Lena, the Spark. Couldn't do it without you wild cards.
Spark.
The word ignited me. That's when the hook sank deeper. The toast hung in the air like smoke from a fresh gunshot, and I felt Lena's rage, our rage, bubble up, hot and unfiltered. Mark's eyes danced with that false warmth, the kind he'd used to reel me in all those years ago, but now it curdled my stomach. Around us, the crowd murmured approval, clinking glasses to the man who'd just canonized his own hypocrisy. My twin, trapped in my flesh across the table, squeezed her napkin until her knuckles whitened, my knuckles, really, and shot me a look that said, now or never. I stood, the scrape of my chair slicing through the jazz like a knife. To the sisters, I echoed, voice steady but edged, lifting my untouched champagne. The ones who carry the scars you pretend don't exist. The room hushed, a ripple of unease spreading. Mark's smile froze. Botox be damned. He wasn't used to Lena, me, pushing back in public. His power thrived on isolation, on whispers in boardrooms and threats in alleys. Not spotlights. Sit down. Lena, he murmured, all charm laced with steel. His hand grazing my arm, her arm, like he owned it. I jerked away, the contact electric with memory, flashes of her nightmares. His fingers bruising her throat in that same possessive grip. Don't make a scene on our big night, but scenes were my specialty now. I circled the table, hips swaying in the red sheath dress Lena favored, bold, unapologetic, the anti-me. Big night? This. I gestured to the balloon archway spelling happily ever after. The ice sculpture of intertwined swans melting into slush. Or, do you mean the night you wrapped our car around that pole to hide your little joyride? The one where Ellie took the rap for your DUI? Mark? Manslaughter pinned on the unstable wife, while you skated free? The quartet faltered, a sax note dying mid-breath. Forks clattered. A councilwoman in pearls choked on her oyster. Mark's face drained to the color of bad veal. He lunged for my wrist. But I sidestepped, years of Lena's bar fight instincts kicking in. You crazy bitch, he hissed. Low enough for only our circle. Security's one call away. Call them, I shot back, pulling the USB from my clutch, a sleek silver drive that gleamed like judgment. Or better yet, let's screen the home movies. I nodded to the AV tech, a kid I'd slipped 100 earlier, who fumbled the remote but hit play. The projector flickered to life on the far wall, casting the yacht scene in harsh relief. Mark snarls. Lena's pleas. The slaps that echoed louder than the waves. Screams erupted, shock. Not horror. The polite kind from people who'd trade stocks in blood money. Phones whipped out, recording the unraveling. Mark bolted up, face twisted. Turn it off. That's fake. Deep fake bullshit. But his denial cracked when the crash cams synced up, time-stamped, showing him spiking my drink at dinner hours before. Lena rose then, my body moving with her fire. It's not fake.
Mark.
It's us. The sisters you broke. Her voice, my voice, cracked the room open. And for a heartbeat, I saw the boy he'd been, the insecure kid from the South Side, clawing for more. But pity dies fast in revenge's furnace. Chaos bloomed. Donors fled to the exits, skirts swishing like whispers of scandal. A burly security guard lumbered in. But I was faster, hurling the USB like a grenade onto the dance floor. Pick it up, I taunted Mark. Or watch your empire burn on every newsfeed by dawn. He froze, calculating. That's his weakness, the scales always tipping in his head. Power wasn't fists, it was leverage. And I'd just flipped the board. But he wasn't done. With a nod to the guard, he lunged not at me, but at Lena. You're not Ellie, you're the junkie. Tell them. The accusation hung. Controversial as sin, paint the devoted wife as the imposter, the twin as the fraud. The guard hesitated, cuffing Lena's, my arms as she struggled. Mark. Stop. It's me, Ellie, but in my body. With Lena's wild eyes. Who believed, heart slamming, I tackled him. We crashed into the swans, ice shattering like our vows. Fists flew, his polished rings glancing my jaw, reopening the fake bruise into real pain. You think you can play me? He growled, pinning me against the linen-draped table, caviar splattering like black tears. I made you, Lena. Swapped you out like a bad investment. The confession slipped, wine loose, and the room's stragglers gasped. Phones captured it all, the hedge fund king admitting to neural theft, to trading souls like derivatives. I need him hard, tasting victory in his wheeze. But doubt not. Was this enough? The swap's proof was locked in lab servers, buried under NDAs and payoffs. And Mia, where was she in this melee? Sirens wailed distant. Chicago's finest en route. Mark staggered up, suit rumpled, eyes feral. You'll rot for this. Both of you. He spat at my feet, then bolted for the service door, vanishing into the kitchens like the rat he was. Panting, I crawled to Lena, unlocking her cuffs with a stolen key. We did it, she whispered, my face streaked with her tears. But as cops burst in, badges flashing under strobes, I realized this was just intermission. The real revenge waited in the fallout, the buried secrets clawing to light. We were separated in holding. Standard procedure for sisters in distress. The detective, a grizzled vet named Kowalski with a Bears mug on his desk, grilled me first. Start talking, Harper, or whatever you are. Body swaps? That's sci-fi crap. Not South Loop drama. I leaned forward, Lena's tattoos peeking from my sleeve like war paint. It's real. Mark's fund bankrolled the trial, off books, through his Cayman cutouts. Check the neurology logs at Northwestern. Patient IDs, EH 47 and LH 48. Swapped April 15th. He snorted, but his pen scratched notes. And the kid? The tapes say something about a brat.
Mia.
My niece, our niece. Mark's daughter. He's got eyes on her. Panic spiked. I'd stashed her with a trusted bartender from Lena's haunt. But Mark's reach was long. Across the hall, Lena faced her own fire. In my body, she was the victim wife, but Mark's lawyers were sharks, circling with injunctions. By dawn, bail was posted for her, not me. Conflict of interest, they smirked, leaving me to rot on Lena's dime, a public defender who looked like he'd slept in his suit. Solitary was a pressure cooker. Hours blurred, my mind replaying the swap's haze, waking to monitors beeping. Mark's whisper, "Now you're useful, Ellie." Silent and pretty. Useful. The word festered. I'd borne his crimes, the hit-and-run rap that cost me my job at the shelter, the whispers labeling me unhinged, all while he bedded Lena, whispering promises to Mia that dissolved into bruises. A guard slipped me a phone mid-afternoon. Lena's voice. Strained. "Elle. It's unraveling." The Sun-Times ran the yacht clip, anonymous source. Boards calling emergency meetings. But Mark. He's vanished. And Mia's aunt just called. Goons torched her place. Rage ignited. Pure kerosene. Controversial choice number 3. Breakout. Not literally, I wasn't tunneling with a spoon, but digitally. Lena had taught me her hacks. Greasy skills from dodging bill collectors. Using the guard's blind eye, a 20 spot well spent. I jacked his desktop, routing through VPNs to Mark's servers. Passwords cracked like eggs, his ego. Always Kingpin 69. Files flooded. Emails to hitmen. Wire transfers to the lab docs who'd greenlit the swap without ethics boards. Buried deepest. The secret that gutted me. The accident? Mark had rigged the brakes. Not just the DUI. To eliminate me after I stumbled on the embezzlement ledger. I'd taken the fall. Manslaughter. Yes. But attempted murder on his tab. And Lena? He'd targeted her next. The swap a twofer. Dispose of the wife. Control the witness. Twist of the knife. A paternity test. Dated last year. Mia wasn't his side fling's regret. She was mine. IVF embryos we'd banked early marriage. Stolen by Lena in desperation. Implanted without my consent. Mark knew. Family ties you down, he joked once. Now it bound us in blood. I forwarded it all to Kowalski's inbox. Anonymous. Then smashed the hard drive with my heel. Petty, but satisfying. By evening, Feds swarmed. SEC, FBI. The full alphabet circus. Mark's penthouse raided. Assets frozen. But he was smoke. Fled to a private jet at O'Hare. Destination Aruba. Lena bailed me out at dusk. My face on her shoulders, a surreal homecoming. We hugged in the parking lot. Rain slicking the asphalt. Mia asleep in the back seat of a borrowed Civic. We take him down together, she said. Eyes, my eyes fierce. But revenge's path twists. As we drove into the neon-veined night, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Mark's voice. Oily calm.
Ellie.
Or Lena. Doesn't matter. You want the kids safe?
Meet me.
Alone. The old pier. Midnight. The drive to the pier was a funeral procession through Chicago's underbelly. The Civic's wipers slapping back Lake Michigan's spiteful drizzle. Mia stirred once, mumbling for Mommy, and Lena, still in my skin, reached back to hush her. Our hands brushing in a tangle of who was who. This ends tonight, I said. Voice gravel from Lena's chain-smoking habit. But doubt gnawed like lake wind. Was I walking into a trap? Or the kill shot? Mark chose the old Navy pier for its poetry, touristy ghosts by day, smuggling shadows by night, where he'd proposed with a ring that now choked my finger like a shackle. I parked under the rattling L tracks, the air thick with diesel and decay. No backup. Lena stayed with Mia in a diner off Halstead, her protests echoing. He's poisoned you against risks.
Él.
Don't go, hero. But heroes die pretty, villains win ugly. I stepped out, red dress plastered to thighs, the fake black eye throbbing real now from the scuffle. Footsteps echoed on weathered planks, and there he was, Mark, silhouetted against Ferris wheel lights that spun lazy mockery. No suit, jeans, hoodie, a duffel at his feet like a refugee king. You came, he said. No surprise, just satisfaction. Up close, the Botox cracks showed, crow's feet from squinting at betrayals. Knew you would. Always the fixer. Ellie. I stopped 10 feet out, wind whipping hair across my Lena's face. Cut the therapy session. Where's Mia's proof? The real one. The trust fund you siphoned for your escape? He chuckled, low and bitter, unzipping the duffel to reveal stacks of cash. A glint of gold. Her unicorn. Stolen talisman. Safe.
For now. But you?
You're a glitch. Sweetheart. The swap was meant to erase you. Neural wipe after transfer. Doc botched it. Left echoes. He stepped closer, eyes scanning me like code. I see her in you. The fight. Hot. In a trashy way. Revulsion surged, but I held ground. Controversial play. Seduce the snake. I closed the gap, fingers trailing his chest, feeling his heart stutter. You always liked the wild side. Why fight it now? Walk away.
Mark.
Feds have your jets grounded. Aruba's a dream. His hand cupped my jaw, thumb pressing the bruise, testing. Because you owe me.
10 years. Ellie.
I built us, the house in Lincoln Park, the summers in Door County. You were nothing. Daddy's broken girl. Scraping by on grants. I gave you polish. Polish. The word snapped something. I twisted his wrist, slamming him against a piling, the wood groaning like old bones. You gave me chains. Framed me for murder. Swapped my soul like a bad stock. And Mia, our Mia, you dosed me to miscarry the originals. Then let Lena carry them to term so you could play absentee god. He wheezed, but grinned through pain. Guilty. But smart. You were too soft, non-profit bleeding heart. Hugging strays. Needed hardening. A knee to my gut doubled me. And he flipped us.
Pinning with knee on chest.
Now you're her. Feral. Fuckable. Maybe I'll keep this version. Stars burst. Breath ragged. Flashes. Lena's memories. His assaults blurring with mine. I bucked. Elbow to throat. Rolling free. We grappled like alley cats. Dress ripping. Knuckles splitting on his teeth. Blood his smeared my lips. Tasting of betrayal's vintage. Sirens wailed distant. Maybe Kowalski's hunch. Mark broke first, staggering for the duffel. Fuck this. You're both liabilities. He pulled a snub-nosed .38, the kind bribes by undercounters. Time fractured. I lunged, tackling low, the shot cracked skyward, splintering a beam. We tumbled into shallows, water shock cold. Gun skittering across planks. End it. Ellie, he gargled, hands clawing my throat. Be the villain. Squeeze. Temptation roared, controversial apex. Murder him here. Claim self-defense. Bury the swap as delusion. But Mia's face flickered. Innocent anchor. No, I rasped, prying free, knee to groin. He curled fetal, and I zip-tied his wrists with the cord from a busted light. Lena's bar tricks again. Cops swarmed then. Kowalski leading. Cuffs clicking on Mark like karma's applause. Nice work, Harper.
Or
Whoever. He hauled Mark up, reading rights amid curses. Lena arrived at dawn. Mia in tow. The precinct buzzing like a hive. Feds debriefed. Swap confirmed via logs. Docs flipping for immunity. Mark's empire crumbled. Assets seized. Headlines screaming finance mogul's soul-stealing scandal. Controversial headlines. Sure, was it science or sorcery? Ethics boards erupted. But I didn't care. Mia ran to me, us arms wide. Auntie, in the chaos. The twist brewed. Lena pulled me aside. Eyes shadowed.
él.
There's more. During the swap, I saw his files. In your body, I accessed the lab backups. She hesitated, voice dropping. The accident? You didn't take the fall alone. I spiked the drink too. Payback for ignoring my calls about Mia. We crashed because of me.
Shock rooted me.
Buried secret reversed. Not just his crime, but ours. Lena's desperation. My blindness. Twin sins entwined. Why didn't you
Say,
you'd hate me like he did? Tears, my tears, tracked her cheeks.
but now.
We're free. Or damned together. Debate flickered. Forgive the mirror. Or shatter it. Mia tugged my hand, oblivious. I knelt, pulling Lena close. Sisters. Always. But as Mark was led away, his glare promised appeals. Countersuits. Revenge's aftertaste. Ash. Not nectar. Weeks blurred into a gray Chicago autumn. Leaves skittering like guilty secrets across Lincoln Park West. The trial hit like a nor'easter. Mark's defense spun the swap as experimental therapy gone awry, painting me and Lena as co-conspirators in a delusional folie à deux. Tabloids feasted, twin terror, soul swappers or victims, pitting us as either tragic heroines or fame-hungry vixens. Controversial? Hell yes. Protesters clogged the courthouse steps, women's groups chanting for neural rights. Tech bros decrying anti-innovation hysteria. I fielded death threats on burner lines. Mia's school switched to private tutors. Freedom's price. Paranoia in a bulletproof vest. Lena and I bunkered in a safe house off Armitage. A bland two-flat with reinforced doors and a view of nothing. The swap held, Doc said reversal wrist brain fry. So we stayed traded. Me and her ink-stained skin. Her and my unmarred polish.
Nights.
We'd trade stories by takeout lo mein.
Piecing the mosaic.
Remember prom? She'd laugh. My face crinkling. You ditched for the debate club nerd. I hooked up in the gym. Echoes bonded us. But the rift yawned, her confession at the pier. The shared poison in our veins. Mia bridged it. A whirlwind of crayons and questions. Why do you look like mommy but talk like Andy? We'd deflect with cartoons. But guilt gnawed. Paternity outed in court, mine. Biologically, sparked custody wars. Mark's lawyers clawed for visitation. Snarling paternal rights, but judges balked at the optics. A felon dad eyeing a 4-year-old from Supermax. My testimony was the hammer. On the stand, Under fluorescent glare, I unpacked it all. The embezzlement trails I'd traced post-swap. Wiring diagrams from the lab showing Mark's sign-off on the transfer protocol. He didn't just steal money, I said, Lena's voice steady.
He stole lives. Mine.
My sisters. My daughters. Juries eat maternal fire. His jury, blue-collar holdouts from the suburbs, convicted on all counts, fraud, assault, attempted murder, even a novel neural violation, charge the feds cooked up. Sentencing day drizzled judgment. Mark in orange, shackled, glared as the judge dropped 35 to life. No remorse. Mr. Harper? Then no mercy. His parting shot hissed across the bar. You'll always be half of me.
Ellie.
Broken.
Broken.
The word lingered as we exited to flashbulbs. Mia shielded in Lena's arms, my arms. Outside. Air crisp with lake chill. A reporter thrust a mic. Regrets? Would you swap back? Lena fielded. Fierce. This body's tougher. Suits me. But her eyes met mine.
Questioning.
The happy or tragic ending unfolded in fragments. Mark's assets liquidated, funneling millions to victims' funds. My nonprofit reborn, now advocating neural ethics. With Lena as reluctant CEO in my old shell. We bought a fixer-upper in Pilsen. Murals brightening walls like defiant scars. Mia thrived, calling us Mama 1 and 2, her laughter erasing bruises. But twists linger. One night,
Post-bedtime.
Lena confessed more. The reversal serum? Mark hid a dose. In his duffel. That night at the pier. She'd palmed it during the scuffle. Vial cool in her pocket. We could switch back. Be whole. Choice loomed. Controversial core. Reclaim the old self. Or embrace the hybrid. The wife who'd trusted blindly. Or the fighter forged in fire. Dawn broke over the Dan Ryan. Traffic humming promise. I took the vial. Smashed it on the fire escape. Glass tinkling like freed bells. We're better tangled. Sisters, not halves. Mark rotted in Tams. Appeals drowning in red tape. Rumors swirled. He'd smuggled tech. Plotting digital revenge from solitary. But we built walls, literal and not. Mia's first school play. Us in the front row. Cheering her tree sprite. Tears blurring applause. Was it victory? Asked the mirror. Lena's eyes stare back. Fierce and mine. Revenge didn't heal. It scarred beautifully. We'd betrayed. Born sins. Twisted truths but emerged. Debating our damnation over coffee. Alive in the mess. In the end, the real hook, who won? The man who lost everything. Or the twins who gained the world. One shattered vow at a time?